Yes, my name is Imtiaz Puppet. I am the coordinator of Salam Vancouver, which is a social support group for LGBTQ Muslims here in Vancouver. And we also have a community for Vancouver Unity Mosque, or Al Tawheed, which is a safe space where people can practice their religion, where they can pray and socialize in that space. In Asian, African countries that I'm more familiar with, sexuality, labels of sexuality, sexuality, sexual fluidity has existed in all these cultures for centuries, and they changed over with the advent of Christianity or even Islam as well. In fact, in places like Marrakesh in Morocco, they had same-sex marriages before the advent of Islam. So, and many of these cultures, in India, it's in the Kama Sutra and so on. So the terminology of gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer are very much Western identified labels. But these identities have existed in their cultures for a long time, and people maybe didn't label them as LGBTQ. A lot of people, as newcomers come here, take on those labels and that's one of the reasons of their migration here or seeking asylum, is because they've identified that way. So they take that on. But again, there's a lot of fluidity around that, and a lot of people are not even sure about their gender identity or what is possible, whether sexual reassignment surgery is possible, and so on. In Islam, sexual reassignment surgery is acceptable, trans identities are acceptable, but homosexuality isn't. So places like Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you can have sex reassignment surgery, but then there's not a lot of support there for you, emotional and otherwise. In places like Iran and Afghanistan and other places, a lot of gay men are forced to have sex reassignment surgeries because that's the only way they can be who they are, which can be very, very traumatic. So these newcomers are coming from somewhat traumatic experiences, or having to have made choices or having to be boxed into choices that were not of their choice. And here they are, in front of you, and trying to fit into a label that you're giving them that may not fit. I think a lot of LGBT newcomers come because they come from a culture which is inherently spiritual. And for them to separate themselves from their spirituality is very, very difficult, unless you come from Iran. Because Iran is something very different, where because Islam was forced on people, that they negated it completely. Not all. There are a lot of LGBTQ people who still identify as queer Muslim. Others don't, because they come from a repressive culture where religion was forced upon them, particularly because of who they are, and they could not put their gender identity or their sexuality with their faith. Which is why it's so important that we founded Salam, groups like Salam, where people can bring those identities together to say, hey, it is okay to be queer and Muslim, and to be South Asian, or to be Arab, or to be Persian, or to be African. We can bring these things together. Perspective of the LGBTQ newcomer, they've just come from a very traumatic experience and running away from a culture that did not accept them. So for them to trust people from their own culture is very difficult for them. Whether or not they are accepting is irrelevant for them. They just want to run and hide from these people because they don't trust them, because of the trauma they have faced from those cultures. Some of these cultures are accepting, some of them are not, and that is a work in progress. Some are more xenophobic than others. And you can't stereotype, you can't say that, oh, these cultures are more homophobic or transphobic than others. And that's a work that we ourselves are doing in our own communities, challenging as everybody else does. But it's a real fear for the newcomer because they just don't know what to accept. And even I've gone to people and saying that, hey, let's go here. Oh, no, I don't want to go here, right? I said, but no, these people are friendly, they're accepting. Well, but they don't see that, right? There is a fear, whether or not things are changing for them, that trauma experience is very real. One, they may be a settlement worker and say, hey, great, I can help this person because we have the same culture. And this person has, some trauma in their back of their head saying, I don't trust this person, right? So it becomes very challenging. And often I've seen a lot of newcomers saying, I don't want to talk to somebody from my own culture, for that real fear of I don't know who they are. What if they turn me in? What if word gets out to my family back home? They might be in trouble because they don't know who these people are. I think it's for any support worker, you have to be aware that please don't make assumptions. I found that out too. I've made assumptions and I found out that I was wrong. I'm going, I missed that. So be ready to accept that. Accept that you're missing something here. And if we take it upon ourselves to find out what's going on and what's missing, then maybe we can help the person better. I think the big challenge for a lot of LGBT newcomers is trying to get support services, and there isn't adequate support services for them, or the people who are trying to give them that service don't have the adequate training, or they may need translation, and the person who's giving the translation doesn't have adequate training in translation, or speaks a different dialect than them, and will give a different translation. So there's a lot of challenges in terms of expectation